Hello, I'm Sarah Freeman with Atolo Technology, and today I have Mac McClenathan with 1111 Systems, and we're going to talk about security, disaster recovery, and how those intersect.
Awesome.
But before we jump into that, Mac, tell us something about yourself and what my clients that you would like us to know.
Oh, that is an interesting question. Didn't see that one coming that I would like you to know. Just from a background perspective, originally I moved to Nashville to pursue a career in music. Couldn't figure out how to make any money in that space. So that is why we're here together today.
Okay, so it's a natural move
It's a
from
natural move. I
music
still,
to technology.
well, again, we're in a podcasting studio, got the mics. I'm still in studio. I'm on tour just without a guitar.
Okay, noted, noted. That's a really good answer. I like that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me more about the misconception between backup and disaster recovery.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we still see, surprisingly, but I think it's all about kind of the defining the risks and what you're trying to solve for. Backup and DR are two separate things. I think for a long time, maybe backup was viewed as a business continuity plan or a disaster recovery solution. In reality, it's not. Disaster recovery in the modern form is more focused on time, right? So if you're talking about disaster recovery, oftentimes you're going to hit on recovery time objective, how fast can you get back up? And recovery point objective, how much data is acceptable to lose in that transition, right? So it's all about speed. With backup, it's a little bit more about retention. You get some benefits of local recoverability, right? But at the same time, when you talk about cyber, let's say a bad actor locks up your production environment. Well, if you're replicating everything in real time or near real time, in all likelihood, that bad actor's in your recovery environment also. So backup helps mitigate that risk in that it's a little bit more granular, and we can introduce some concepts like immutability, right, to prevent them from encrypting and deleting your data. So data protection is a big piece of that, and we can be a little bit more methodical in combing through those data sets in an offline environment, so you don't get reinfected.
Okay, that's a good answer.
Good.
So you kind of answered the next question a little bit, but how do backup, disaster recovery, and security work together to protect the client, and what is 1111 doing in that space?
Yeah, and this, and again, I feel like is siloed oftentimes. The backup and disaster recovery conversation lives usually with more traditional IT folks in the organization. We've seen a shift where there's more dedicated security folks that are focused on prevention, right? So they're going to set the layers of all the different tool sets, right? You're going to have EDR, maybe you've got a SIM solution, antivirus on the that would kind of come through with the EDR, but at the end of the day, you've got the preventative side and then you've got the recovery side. Today, we're still seeing those conversations happen in silos. Where I think we add a little bit more value into that conversation is the ability to bring them together, really that put that umbrella over cyber resilience, right? We want to set the edge, we want to prevent attacks. But if there is a bad actor that is either lucky or highly motivated or well funded or a combination of all three, they're going to get in, right? There's no silver bullet. There's no tool set you're going to buy. There's no 5 tool sets you're going to buy. And when you buy 5 tool sets, there's another layer of complexity and more room for error, right? So you kind of have to act as if there is a bad guy kind of already in your environment and then think through, can I recover if my production infrastructure is compromised, right? Or even my backup infrastructure. So what we're doing is kind of coming, if you're familiar with the NIST cybersecurity framework, right?
Mhm.
There's steps or categories of identification, protection, detection, response, and then ultimately recovery. We're kind of coming in from the recovery side and working backwards, meaning assuming someone's got an investment in tools, right? They're doing something to prevent. We're coming in to say, let's identify what your vital data assets are, right? What's important to your business, critical that you can't live without, helping them identify that and all the things that it touches, right? The interdependencies. Creating a plan because budget obviously comes into play somewhere in this
A little bit.
conversation.
A
So
little bit.
if we can identify what those vital data assets are, we can know where to start, where to focus on areas that are going to need extra levels of protection, and then build a plan around that and maybe even kind of tabletop it out, right? we're going to war game, if you will, and say, hey, we're going to create a scenario where this application is locked up. We're going to leverage your backups and your replication software to prove that out and provide documentation and build that plan based off the tools you have. And if we see gaps, introduce some new tool sets and new services, right, to help them fill those gaps. So again, backing into the cyber resilience conversation from the recovery angle instead of, MDR, XDR, all the buzzwords that, the tool sets that are out there.
So you're saying is you're just a higher level view of the entire organization and making sure that those arms connect
Yeah,
and talk to each other and affect each other.
yeah, exactly right. The more services that we kind of have visibility on, obviously our teams have more context on, right? So if it's going to our security operations center, if I've got visibility on the network and the endpoints, and there are even SaaS applications, we're consolidating all of that, correlating, looking for bad actors, but then also creating that plan to make sure that your backups are isolated, that hopefully we can get an immutable solution in there one way or another, that we're building a plan and process around recovering from a cyber incident, because we've actually seen as the bad actors attack that first, trying to eliminate that insurance policy, we've seen an uptick 500% in the last 3 years of cyber related disaster recovery declarations, right? So we're big in
Right.
that space.
Right.
So in our own customer base, the first three in 2023 were cyber driven, not, hey, my infrastructure failed or I got hit by a tornado.
Right.
It's a much more likely, or it's becoming more likely for that to be cyber driven, not, a large event.
Okay. So how does 1111 help clients who are understaffed and don't have enough resources for cybersecurity and or their cloud services? What do you do? How do you augment that?
Yeah, so I've been in the IT space for a long time. And 10 years ago, that conversation was, hey, I want to maintain this in house. Well, as we've progressed and how fast the threat landscape is moving, the cybersecurity space is the first time in my career where a lot of organizations maybe not handing all of it over, but saying we actually need help, right? Because there's negative unemployment. So finding the resources, like actually finding them, hiring them, training them, and then retaining them, that is a much harder prospect on the cyber side than it ever has been on the IT side. And I think generally speaking, they're hard to find on both fronts, but cyber is just a little amplified. So a lot of organizations are more willing to invite help into the organization. One, because of the negative unemployment, but two, just experience, right? So if you're a cybersecurity analyst, or you're going to want to go work for, a security operations center or an enterprise account where you have career paths and you get exposure to all these different things, right? We're looking at multiple environments every single day, multiple meaning hundreds or thousands of different event sources that are feeding our environment. So we get to see things that they would never have seen really holistically.
Right.
So from an experience standpoint, it's actually a pretty easy conversation. They're lifting their hands and asking for help more now than they ever have on the IT front.
Okay, that's good to know. And what are the top cybersecurity and cloud trends as we are going into 2024? What do you think's on the horizon?
Well, someday I probably will run for office. So I don't know if I could forecast because I don't want to be wrong. But no, the to us and what I'm seeing happen is that recovery side of the house is joining. They're coming together with the cybersecurity side of the house, right? So the recovery is not left off. But again, there's a lot of niche organizations that are like, I just want to do MDR. I just want to do edge protection. I think this conversation is coming together internally, which is really kind of our hope and really what we're building 1111 systems into address, right? That's our purpose, cloud connectivity, managed security.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much,
Yeah.
Mac. And thank you all for joining us today. If you want to learn more about 1111 systems or hear some really funny stories from Mac in regards to
We got stories.
cybersecurity cloud or maybe a little time in Nashville, just
Matthew
go ahead and
Roberts.
reach out and
It's
we'll
on
schedule a
iTunes.
meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.